Welcome back. In this part of our demonstration for the flowers in a vase, I will do the painting for the lesson. The painting will end up looking something like this. I'll show you how to paint the flowers and how to make the water in the vase and how to put something on the tablecloth. Okay, so we left off here where our drawing was sharpied and we're ready to paint. You should have your watercolor set. Depending on what kind of watercolor set you have, make sure you have some nice areas to mix colors if you need. I'm gonna be using this large brush for most of it, but I will pull out a smaller detail brush to put some details on later. Have some paper towels to dry your brush on. One personal water cup, one empty water cup to dump your dirty water into, and one big cup of water to share at your table. So to get started, I'm actually going to just be painting the flowers to get started. So I'm going to take some cool yellow to get started on my sunflower painting. Alright, to get started, I'm going to put my cool yellow right here. I like to separate my colors by having the warm colors and the cool colors. So I'm going to take some of my cool yellow and put it into this mixing pan right here and just carefully pull my brush inside of the petals. Now, you should always have an extra paper towel lying around at your spot to blot any dribbles or mistakes that you might make. One way that I like to hold my brush is to hold it right behind the ferrule here, and I like to use the tip of the brush for painting. You never use the heel of your brush, and you never press down really hard. If you smash your brush into the paper, you'll never be able to have detailed painting. Now, as I do this and I pull my brush gently, make sure that you're just using the tip of your brush. Notice that I'm not pushing my brush. I'm always pulling it towards the direction of the handle, never pushing away from the handle. Now, for the purpose of the demonstration, I like to keep my painting pretty straight, but if you need to turn it upside down or move your body or your painting around to more easily access your painting and not twisting your painting hand around, I highly suggest that. Okay, so make sure that whatever you're doing, your painting hand is comfortable and you're able to easily access all parts of your painting. Alright, now that I've got that yellow completed, I'm just going to stick with my cool yellow for a moment and paint in my daffodil before I start on the next color. So I'm kind of moving around my painting using the same color, so I don't have to wash my brush out so many times. Gets a little annoying to wash your brush out and then constantly be having to change and get dirty water and everything. So I'm just kind of gonna take care of all the same yellow color first and then wash my brush out. So notice I'm making both of these cool yellow. Alright, so after I'm done with my cool yellow, I'm going to take my brush, wash it out, and I'm going to get some brown. If you don't have brown, you can use a combination of the primary colors, the yellow, cool yellow, warm red, and cool blue, and that will make you a brown color. But here we go. Here's my brown color that I'm going to use for the inside of my flower. So I'm going to take that brown color and paint that inside of my sunflower. And I'm also laying these colors in very deliberately based on how I want the colors to dry, because I'm going to want these colors to dry and put a second layer over them as I go. Color in or paint in the center of my daisy, or if you want it to be a black-eyed Susan, you could make it a black-eyed Susan as well, and paint the petals yellow. I'm going to paint mine white like a daisy, but you can obviously paint it in whatever kind of color you feel necessary. Now, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but my brown is just running a little bit into my petal right there, so I'm just going to blot that out because I want those colors to be separated. Okay, now I've done with that color of brown, so I'm going to wash out my brush, make sure my brush is nice and clean. And now I'm going to make purple for my tulip. So I'm going to get some cool red and put it over here in my cool side. I'm going to get a little bit more so I can kind of readjust my purple if necessary. Rinse out my brush. And get some warm blue and put it in this side of the container. Now, as I start mixing these, I'm going to get a little bit right up here and just pull a little red into the blue, and you can see how it changes that to purple. Now as I start painting my purple, paint that in. My brush is kind of wet. I'm just going to press it down and try to get some of the wetness out of it so it's a little drier. One thing about watercolors is you have to really control the wetness of your brush. If your brush is too wet, the watercolors will run all over the place, and then it's really hard to be detailed with it. Likewise, if it's too dry, it won't paint well, and you'll have like splotchy colors. So you want to make sure you've got just the right amount of water on your brush. Not too much, not too little. Okay, there we go. Now there's my purple tulip. I'm going to wash my brush out again, and I'm going to use my cool red here to paint my rose in. Now, with my rose, I'm going to kind of do a light wash of this cool red over the whole thing. And you're going to have to be really careful when you get to the places you've already painted, because you don't want those colors to run together. There's no barrier between those colors or those areas. Like, it's not a wax resist painting where I've got some oil pastel or something creating a border for me. It's just Sharpie, so the colors will very easily run together. Okay, now that I've got that finished, I'm actually going to take a little bit of my paper towel and I'm just going to like pat out some of the areas to make them just a little bit lighter. You'll see that in the video as I'm patting it out. I'm getting some of that color out and making it just a little bit lighter on some of those petals. It's going to give us a little variety of color so that we have some light areas, and we're actually going to go back and make some dark areas as well. Alright, now that I've got that finished, I'm going to move on to my white here, and actually I'm going to change it. I'm not going to make it white exactly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to my detail brush. So just got done cleaning this one out, my big one here. I'm going to set it aside and get my other brush that's very, very small. I'm going to take my dirty water, dump it out, take my clean water, and just get a little bit of extra clean water there so I can make my next colors. And now I'm going to take my my brown here, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it to kind of bring it over to like an orange color. I'm going to add just a little bit more of some warm red into it to get an orange color. There's my orange color. Okay, now that orange, I'm going to bring a little bit of orange over here just a little bit, and I want it to be very watery, and get a little teeny bit of cool blue. It's actually a lot for what I need, and I'm going to add it in, and of course it's way too much, so I'm going to make a little bit more orange over here and add it in. A little bit more red, and add that in over here. Just kind of make a light grayish green. And then I'm going to make sure to put a lot of water in it because I want it to be very light. Okay, so it's just a light color, and if you see it here, it's kind of like a yellowish, grayish green. I'm just going to paint that on top. You might not even be able to see it in the video, but I'm just going to paint a few strokes on this white area with that very light color to make the white stand out even more once we paint the background in. Okay, now those little areas on there, I don't know if you'll be able to see them truly in the video, especially if I'm in class and you're looking at this on the screen. Might not be able to see it. Now we've got our main flowers filled in, and our yellow parts of our daisy are dry. Not our daisy, sorry, our daffodil and our sunflower. So I'm going to go back with some cool yellow, a little bit of warm yellow to kind of make a mixed up yellow, a little darker yellow, and I'm just going to add the little veins in the petals. Now, if you don't have the ability to do this kind of detail, you can leave it off. This is just extra for those people who want a little bit of extra challenge and want to have a little bit nicer detail. This would be like the second layer of paint. Same here on my daffodil. Okay, now I'm going to go back. The center of my flower is now dry here, so I'm going to go back and actually take some of this dark brown. If you don't have this dark brown, what you can do is you can take your other brown that you made and you can add some warm blue to it, and that will make a really dark brown. You see right there how I just took that brown and added a little dark blue to it. Sorry, not dark blue, warm blue. And now I'm just going to go back and put some dots in. This is for the little seeds. This technique is called stippling. And when you do this, you want to make your dots even, but you don't want to make it a pattern. Overlap some, make some small, make some big, and put them all really close to each other. And that overlapping color will create more interest. Okay, so there you got it on the daisy too. And I'm just going to take a little bit more of that and add just a teeny line there. Wash out my brush, get it nice and clean, and pull that edge so it's soft. But that's going to give us a little bit of more color in there. Okay, now I'm going to go back, and I've got these two flowers up here that both have warm red. I'm going to take a little bit of warm red and add it into my purple. It's going to give it a little warm color. And what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to wash my brush out now so it's a nice clean brush. And I'm just going to pull that edge and soften it. And pull this edge to soften it. Now I'm going to go back with that same warm red. And as you see on this one, the flower, the rose here, has a darker version of the warm red on the inside of the petal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this warm red, and on the inside of each petal, I'm just going to do a little line around the inside. It's going to darken that petal a little bit. Now, you don't want to let it dry too much because you still want to smooth that color out. And I'll show you that in just a second. I'm kind of watching the colors as I'm laying them down and making sure I don't let them get too dark. Now, that's kind of what it looks like there. It's just a brush stroke. But now I'm going to again wash my brush really well so it's nice and clean and just a little bit wet. And now I'm going to smooth that edge out. So you can kind of see how that piece there is a little smoother now. And I'm going to take this edge and smooth it out. This is just going to give a little bit more depth to the petals. And each time I do this, I'm kind of wiping my brush off on a little paper towel so that I keep it dry as I pull that color out. Kind of keep my brush clean and dry. And this is just going to give us a little depth to each of these petals. And the trick is you don't want to let this dry too quickly. Otherwise you can't go back and manipulate that edge and make it softer. So be careful not to let that paint dry. Oops. And you'll see right there my paint just jumped the line into that other petal. So I'm going to take that out and smooth the rest of these edges. Alright, so now I've got that kind of variegated, darkened look to my rose. And we are ready for the green. Now, for green, I'm going to have to, again, clean out my water cup here. A little fresh water. And at this point, I'm going to clean out this mixing area because it is too dirty and I don't want to contaminate my green. But on the next video I will work on the background and the stems and the tabletop. So that concludes how to watercolor the flowers for our watercolor flower vase painting.